back with a final review of Gloom of Kilforth. This is a fantasy quest game from All or Nothing Productions and Tristan Hall, and this is a super cool game. So what it is, a card-based adventure, sort of R. It's almost like an RPG. It's an emergent narrative adventure game where 1 to 4 players are questing around these 25 location cards that are always randomized in a 5 by 5 grid in an effort to advance their personal saga before attempting to take on an enemy who is threatening to demolish or throw the land of Kilforth into gloom. And each player around the table has one of these ancients associated with them, and all of the players can help each other to defeat their particular ancient, but they can't help each other to accomplish their saga goals. So essentially, you're going around trying to find the right things that you need to complete your goals, then working to kill this ancient. What's really cool about this game is as you go around the map, each time you go to a different location, you'll be encountering either enemies who will attack you, quests that you can do in order to gain new items or spells, titles, allies, whatever. You can go and explore different specific places that are at these locations. And lastly, you can meet these NPCs. Now, I'm not going to really show you the game in this video because I have a 3-part series already. You can go watch that and see how the game plays out. I already feel like I'm going kind of in depth. But one thing that came up in that video that I didn't really go into depth with was the strangers. These, in addition to being able to fight enemies and go to different places and have these quests, these strangers are like kind of like NPCs that you would encounter in an adventure video game or an RPG like Zelda or Final Fantasy. And you interact with them using regular stats. You're not fighting with them, you're influencing them, you're talking to them, whatever. And if you do, then you'll get something from them, just like you would get from an enemy or from a quest. They're called rumor cards, and what they do is they tell you where you can acquire this special item, or you can get this title, or this ally, or learn a new spell. And you have to go across the map to that specific location to find that thing. And it's really cool. It's like getting a little side quest in a game. I feel like this is a lot like a video game, and I really love that. And I think it accomplishes that feeling of an emergent adventure better than any other board game that I've played thus far. Getting into some of the little specifics of how it plays, you roll dice every time you get into one of these encounters, whether it be a fight or an exploration or talking to one of these characters. And you just have to get a certain number of successes for each of these encounters. But for something so simple, it really leaves the game wide open for new experiences every time. You have a deck for each of the different terrain types, so that's 4 different decks of encounters, and then you have 4 different decks of those different rewards you can get, and then there are 4 different ancients, and each of those ancients has 6 plot cards that may come out throughout the adventure, because each day, at the end of a round, essentially, it's the night. And at that point, you're flipping over cards from the night deck, which is essentially an event deck, like you would find in other cooperative games or solo games. This is randomized. It's got 25 cards, just like 25 locations. And each time it flips, either an event will happen, or a character will come out to a specific location on the board, or different weather will affect the way that the game plays out, and it's always randomized. And it's really fantastic. But sometimes when these night cards come out, every time they come out, they turn one location to gloom. So at the end of the deck, the whole world is in gloom and you lose. But when certain locations go into gloom, these plot cards from the ancient come out onto the board, and they have effects when you eventually fight the ancient, that if they still exist out there on the board, the ancient is going to be bolstered. He's going to be boosted by having all these plot cards out. So you have to deal with those as they go as you go through the game too. So it's got a sort of cross between, like I said, this video game feel, this adventure game, this emergent narrative, and something almost like a pandemic, a cooperative game where things keep happening and you have to work together to divvy up responsibilities, or if you're playing solo, to just make sure you cover as much as you can before time runs out and before you tackle the ancient. And with this theme and this gameplay style, like all of the combined mechanisms, I find this to be my favorite of all types of games that operate in this sort of, I have some actions, now the game does something to me procedure. It's really wonderful. Plus, the artwork in this game, which you'll see in that other video and in the unboxing, is phenomenal. It's some of the best artwork in any game that I've ever played. The card art is fantastic, and this goes very far toward world building and toward immersing you into that emergent narrative as you play. So it becomes a lot of fun to think, like, to read your saga, which has a little bit of story on it, and then think about how the cards that you encounter play into that sort of general narrative. It's just so fantastic. I mean, I can't recommend it enough. This is Gloom of Kilforth by All or Nothing Productions, and it isn't available widely, but actually right now they have the late pledge option available for the sequel to this game, Shadows of Kilforth. And you can get that game and whatever other sort of expansion or add-on content that they have, as well as the core game of Gloom of Kilforth. So that's a really good opportunity. I'll link that in the description because I can't tell you that URL off the top of my head. But in any case, I do recommend this game. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm Eddie Inzauto. Until next time, you have fun out there.